to the Nashville Entrepreneur Center and to our speaker series. And we are so excited today. I always say Nashville is this unique city, and I know everybody says it's because it's healthcare, it's because it's so many academic institutions, and I say it's because there are so many entrepreneurs that choose to live in our community. And there are so many different businesses that are centered here that people don't even realize are here. And part of this speaker series are bringing in various entrepreneurs in different industries to come and talk about their entrepreneurial journey. I also believe at the Entrepreneur Center, we're a nonprofit, and we're here to connect entrepreneurs to resources to help increase their probability of success. And I think the best resource we have are people. And we are so thankful and fortunate that people are willing to share their time, their experience, and their wisdom with others in our community to help them along their journey. And so today we are so excited to have Dr. Axe. And, you know, I must say, I have been a believer for a while, and I personally, I am thrilled and I can't wait to learn more. But I also think even if you're not into the natural food cures, which it does, a lot of illnesses, I think even the entrepreneurial journey, and he has built an amazing business direct to consumer here in Nashville. So with that, I really want to thank you, Dr. Axe, and thanks for being here. And I would love for you just to tell a little bit about yourself. And then, you know, I'm going to start back because I love going back to almost the beginning to your Ohio days and move you to where you chose to move to Nashville. But if you will just talk a little bit about yourself, and for anyone that doesn't know, which I'm sure everybody does, but anyone that doesn't, what you do and your businesses, et cetera.
Yeah, so today I have co-founded a company called Ancient Nutrition, and in the past I founded a company called Axe Wellness, which started off as a functional medicine clinic in Nashville, where we did everything from nutrition to chiropractic to workout programs. And that eventually turned into a website I launched called draxe.com. And then today, again, focused on ancient nutrition. I also have a leadership and business brand called Leaders. The website domain's leaders.com. But yeah, you know, I got involved in the natural health industry because of a health crisis in my family. And Jane, I think when we look at, you know, whether it's whether it's somebody who's a physician that I know, a lot of people in the space, or someone else, even in other spaces, you know, we tend to do, we tend to get in spaces that revolve around our passions. And so for me, you know, I got involved in the natural health industry because at 40 years old, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was just such a shocking thing at the time because my mom was my gym teacher in elementary school. She worked out a lot, so she looked really fit, but then got this life-threatening diagnosis. And at the time, my family lived in what I'll kind of call the medical model. Anytime we were sick, we took drugs and medications. We didn't know anything about nutrition. We didn't know anything about anything natural. And so she went through that, you know, chemotherapy and all those treatments. And I can still remember this day, her losing her hair. I remember her looking like she had aged 20 years in 2 weeks and thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. And thank God my mom was diagnosed as being cancer-free and healthy. But the crazy thing was, after all those conventional treatments, she seemed to actually get worse. She got diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. She got put on antidepressant and anxiety medications. She was just sick and tired all the time. And this went on for 10 years. And then 10 years later, because of this, I'm studying nutrition. I'm about to graduate and open up my functional medicine clinic in Nashville. And I get a call from her in tears on the phone. And she said, I've been diagnosed with cancer again. What do I do? And I said, Mom, I'll be home. I flew from Florida, where I was in school, back to Ohio. We sat down, we prayed together. We felt really led to take care of her all naturally. And I've been really blessed at the time to have some amazing doctors who had mentored me and really showed me all of these things. And I've been learning so many things. And so with my mom, we radically changed her diet. She started juicing vegetables every single day, using herbs like turmeric, mushrooms like reishi. We just pretty much changed everything. And we went back to her oncologist 4 months later. And when they redid a CT scan to recheck to see what the tumors had done, their exact words were, "This is highly unusual. We don't typically see this, but your tumors have shrunk by more than half." They said, "We want to see you again 9 months later." 9 months later, my mom was in complete remission. And today, it's probably been about 15 years since then. My mom is in her late 60s. She's in the best shape of her life. She's, ran 5K. She's brought, brings her grandkids to Disney World. And so all that being said, that's really what sort of drove me to get into the space I'm in today. But I learned so much through that process. So what really caused me to get into the space I chose to be in, which is natural health, was just my mom growing up, seeing her pain, her suffering, wanting to help families overcome those same issues. And then a similar thing, now I'm moving more and more of my time into a business and leadership space and focusing on building out a platform to help with that, because I just sort of envision a world where, imagine if everybody was a servant leader, if everybody in business, everybody in government, everyone in education focused on, having high integrity and character. And again, this form of servant leadership, I believe that everybody needs to have for the world to thrive. And so those are, there's a lot more to it, but those are some of what at least led me to starting my clinic, starting drax.com, and then co-founding Ancient Nutrition.
All right, so let me go back. All right, because when I look at the dates, you were ahead of the time in some ways. And I know you talked about having mentors, but you said, I think when you were in college, you started having an interest, or because of your mother's illness, but nutrition. So like, what did you major in college, and I have 3 boys that have gone through college, and only one has really figured out nutrition. And so like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So well, first off, my mom, when she was going through cancer, I was in junior high. I was like 7th grade going into 8th grade. And I remember the next year after my mom went through those treatments, I knew very little about health, but I knew soda was bad, or at least I learned that. So I just stopped drinking, soda at 14 years old. And so it started then. I started learning a little in high school. When I got to college, I knew I wanted to go and study chiropractic and functional medicine. And so as my electives, I took nutrition courses and I took biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, everything like that. But I actually got my business degree. My bachelor's is in business from the University of Kentucky. And then I went on to school, a school called Palmer College down in Florida. For that. And then I got nutrition certifications and degrees. I'm a doctor of natural medicine. That was from some different certifying bodies, but that's sort of, yeah. And then, I just, a lot of it was self-taught in terms of at least the nutrition that I practice and teach today.
I'm a Kentucky grad too, so that's even more.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I was in law school many years ago there. But all that to say, as far as what led you to come to Nashville to start, because if I heard you correctly, you came to Nashville to start your functional medicine practice.
Right? Well, yeah, absolutely. So I at the time, and I am a faith-filled person, and so for me, I originally was going to open in North Carolina. I had a friend who lived here. I came to visit him, and just felt like Nashville where I should be. I loved the, some of the faith-based atmosphere. When I came here, I loved the people. Everybody I met, I felt like, wow, these are my people. Versus, I did an internship, I remember, in Chicago, and I remember after being there for like 4 months, I was like, wow, this is a different vibe. Now, I grew up in Ohio, and it's the Midwest, but I remember in Chicago, I was working for a doctor there, and I would go and try and set up business events. And I remember just the door being shut in my face. I remember getting off the airport in Chicago. I just wasn't used to this. And like, everybody trying to trample each other. I'm like, what is this place? And then right afterwards, I came and I visited Nashville, and it felt like home. I loved the people. They were so fantastic. Everyone that I went around with and tried to network with in business, they're like, hey, how can we help you? So for me, I think it's the people, but both that combination of the Southern hospitality, but also the innovation and the entrepreneurs and all of those different things, I felt like really, really drew me here.
And so all right, so then you start your functional medicine practice here.
Yeah.
Did you know when you started that you were going to do more? Like, you make the comment about the entrepreneurial spirit here. did you know, I mean, because so many people start a practice and then they're still in that practice 20 years from now. They may have moved locations, but they're still doing the same thing. Like, did you know from the beginning, or is it a journey that you just doors open?
Well, I think it's kind of both. I think I had an inclination. I remember many years ago going to a John Maxwell seminar. And I remember sitting and watching him speak and thinking, wow, I think I'd really like to do that. I love leadership. I love business. I love what he's teaching. And then a similar time, I saw there was another prominent doctor who had an online content site. He built a supplement brand. My business partner today, I was familiar with Jordan Rubin. So I think I knew that when I was going to open up a clinic, I wanted to get experience. I knew I was called to do that. But I also really felt like I think I knew that I wanted to go and do something beyond that or after that as well. And I think once I got into my clinic, the part that I loved the most was educating. I loved being able to sit down with patients or do a whole talk as a group. Like typically once a week, it was either in my clinic or in the community. I would go and I would do some sort of health seminar on advanced nutrition or how to fight heart disease or diabetes or weight loss or whatever it was. And my favorite part of what I did, period, as a clinician was actually teaching nutrition workshops. And so I was taught that, hey, you know what, everybody should be able to, and this is a John Maxwell principle, you need to be able to do what you're the best in the world at. You need to be able to do what you're passionate about. And so I started writing down, what do I feel like I could be the best in the world at, or one of the best? And what do I feel like I love doing? And it was educating, it was teaching people. And so that's also what led me to start my website, drax.com. I think it was my second year of practice. Is I loved educating and communicating, but I was only to do it, one day a week in that way. So I started just writing. I started writing a newsletter, and then I said, hey, I like speaking. And then I heard somebody on the radio, actually it was Dave Ramsey, and I had a friend that worked for Dave, and I thought, wow, I listened to a few of his shows and I thought, I think I could do that for health, like answer questions and do call in. And so I sent in a demo to a radio station. I got on the AM dial here. The next year I got on the FM dial. I started doing a 3-hour show. Eventually got syndicated. I got picked up in Kansas City and in Minneapolis and in West Palm Beach, Florida, Knoxville. So we started, getting syndicated. I had for a while the #1 podcast online in the health space, and started doing that, and it just started creating a lot of content on my own. And I did sort of, Jane, what I'll call a 4-hour work week, in terms of I was working 40 hours in my clinic, but Friday afternoons I took off, and Friday afternoons I would create content. So I'd write one article and record one video. And then on Sunday nights I would do my podcast. And that just started feeding into my website, drax.com. What was crazy about that is, this was in 2009. And then, and in terms of in 10, when this was sort of what I'm talking about. And then, all of a sudden I started noticing I had somebody come in my office, and then they said, oh, I found you because you wrote an article on your website. By the way, at first I was just typing them out and printing them out. I didn't have a website or anything in 2009. And a patient come up to me and she said, hey, this is a really great newsletter, because I'd write them once a week and it would say like the top 5 ways to, balance your hormones. And she said, hey, my aunt in North Carolina has got high blood pressure. Hey, anyway, you could post this online. And my assistant's husband was a graphic designer. She posted the article. And after a year or two, all of a sudden I started having these patients come in from all over the place, from just, building out this website, which I don't know that I totally expected. And then just continue to focus on that more and more. What's crazy is I want to say over, 2009, we were at, 0 visits. And then by 2017, we were at 20 million unique visitors a month. And so, we really were able to grow that when I was able to focus on it full time eventually.
Yeah, that's what I think is so amazing is, one, I think you were you were sort of ahead of the time in some ways. I remember I started juicing probably in 2005, and there weren't many. And I remember my son's like, Mom, I went to such and such house and his mom's a juicer too. And it was almost like this underground cult of people.
Oh, yeah.
And so just to see you, and then you start this whole online content back earlier than where we are today, I think that's one of the most powerful things. When did you realize it was time to shift your business focus?
Um, Oh, let's see here. One, I feel like I accomplished so much of what I could accomplish in my clinic, and I think it was that point. So, just a quick story here. One, so I met Jordan Rubin. He had an incredible vision for a company, and I started hearing about what he wanted to do in regenerative agriculture. And so he founded a company that I invested in called Beyond Organic. And so with this, we raised grass-fed beef. We did fermented dairy, called kefir. We did kale chips. We did kombucha. We were like the second company to ever do kombucha. We were shipping all these products across the country. And I thought, hey, I want to be able to go in and help with this mission full time. And I was part of that company and I actually sold my practice. My associate bought my practice. And so I could go do this full time. Well, that company essentially failed because the shipping margins, like we just didn't have the margins right of the business, and shipping grass-fed beef across the country and having it melt in July in the South and frozen products. It was just a real challenge, business challenge. But anyways, at that time, I remember bringing somebody to lunch, a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, what's your email list size?" And I said, "Oh, I think it's probably like 33,000 or so." He said, "Hey, how much money are you making off your website?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not really making money because I didn't know." Right. And so he said, "Hey, I heard," and whether this is accurate or not, to a degree, I think it could be, but he said, "I heard for every dollar or for every email you have, you should be making that in dollars a month off of your email list." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "So you're saying I should be making $33,000 a month off my email list?" He said, "Yeah, if you're making nothing," he's like, "you're not doing something right." I was like, "I think you're right." And so I ended up going to a seminar. I remember this. I had somebody I'd met many years ago who was putting on a seminar about how to create an online program. And I thought, hey, I can do this. I can create an online program. I went to the seminar, learned how to create an online program. And then I thought, well, my most popular article I'd written to date was on detoxification. So I created this whole online detox program and we launched it. And we made like $250,000 in like a week. And that was more than I'd made online, like so this was probably in 2013. And that's more than I'd made in the 4 or 5 years prior of operating my website in a week. And so then, I just was like, hey, I'm going to go all in on this, and really started focusing on building out more content and selling products. I came out with a fitness DVD, had a cookbook, and eventually launched a second program and a third, and then a supplement line from there, as I could just continue to learn about monetizing a business and that sort of thing. So anyways, but that's kind of how a lot of that was born.
So did the gentleman that told you about your email and being able to make money, did he come in and work with you, or was he just somebody that gave you some great advice?
No, he was just a friend. He's still a friend of mine today. So I was down in Atlanta speaking at a health conference down there, and we grabbed a food at one of our favorite places, R. Thomas, there, and ended up just chatting. And it was sort of an off the cut comment. He wasn't like dissecting my business. He just kind of made an off the hand comment. "Oh, I heard somewhere that, this is how much you should be making."
That is so cool. So let me go back to a little bit with Jordan Rubin and the Beyond Organic.
Yeah.
And you would consider that somewhat of a failed investment, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you all stayed together.
Well, so here's the thing. And by the way, I think this is so important when you think about in picking your business partners.
Bingo. That's what I was going to get to.
One, I don't regret that decision at all, because I grew closer to Jordan. I learned so much from that failure. Mm-hmm. And the thing about that is and by the way, I had hundreds of thousands in the business. Jordan had tens of millions in the business. So he lost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I lost, and everything is, dependent on where you're at though. Right. So, but for me, I pretty much had no money. Like, I invested everything. And by the way, I just gotten married when this business had failed. We took the rest of the money I had to pay off my student loans. I didn't have anything saved. So we got down to like less than $10,000 in the bank. In fact, running my online website was so expensive because I had like 3 full-time employees that, but my clinic was floating it in this business before. So I was like my wife and I were looking at our next month and we're like, we don't know how we're going to like pay the bills. This was in 2013. And so anyways, just as part of that story, we got down, we prayed, we really felt like, hey, I need to go all in on this website. I went to seminar a few weeks later, launched the program, 6 weeks later, and the rest is history, was sort of the trajectory of the way that Dr. Axe grew to eventually being my website being the #1 natural health website. But all that being said, back to this story with Jordan, when you have a business fail and you've got essentially a business partner and everything goes wrong, you both lose almost all your money, almost everything you have, that could be really stressful in a relationship. But that being said, Jordan has so much integrity, understanding, he's just a man of just such great character. Like that we sort of parted ways because that business, and we didn't work together for 2 years. But then later on, when I was launching my supplement company, I went to him and said, hey, I'd love to have you manufacture them, because he had a manufacturing company at the time. We started working together, started talking about things. And after a year of doing that, we said, hey, why don't we merge companies and grow something great together? And I really think a business partnership is what a great marriage should be as well. There's this level of, and some of these words may not sound real familiar in business partnerships, but there's a level of mutual submissiveness and surrender and respect. And I'll give you an example of this. Like, Jordan is, I believe, one of the greatest product innovators of all time, especially in the nutrition industry. He founded Garden of Life, which was the top supplement company. Ancient Nutrition today, he sold that company 10 years ago. And so with that, I mean, he has formulated more #1 sellers in the nutrition space than anybody. So when it comes to things, though, him and I make decisions together on what we're launching, what we're doing, but sometimes you still have a differing set of opinions. And with that, in that space, I said, Jordan, you know what? I trust your opinion on this. Let's go ahead and launch that product, even though I don't feel like we should. I know you think we should. So let's go for it. And listen, we've had times where the product has crushed it. We've had times where the product has just done awful. And with that, I don't go back and say, Jordan, I told you so, right? And then Jordan allows me to handle more of the marketing and some of the company areas of company in terms of the company culture. And I've made mistakes in terms of marketing campaigns and efforts. And anytime I've made a mistake, he's not like, Josh, I told you so, you messed up, because he's a marketer at heart too in certain areas. But I think that's so important. Like, you want to have a business partner that shares your core values. And Jordan and I are aligned in what our family should be like. We're aligned in our Christian faith. We're aligned in so many different things. We're not actually exactly aligned in how we would approach business in certain things. But in terms of those core values of our mission and vision in life of wanting to heal planet and heal people, we're very aligned. And so I think that that's something, when somebody's moving into a business partnership, they need to be ultra aware. And this goes for not only the person you partner with, it goes with your team. When you are hiring, the most important thing you can do is hire people that share your core values. And for us, again, it starts with food is medicine. Like, if we have people drinking McDonald's and fast food and all that and never exercising, it's not a culture fit. But also, it's not a culture fit if people don't believe in servant leadership and not necessarily share our faith, but are open to learning and growing as leaders and in different character qualities, such as generosity and wisdom and humility and everything that comes with that.
Now, and I think that's one thing. I love what you say about a business partner, because I've often said it's very similar to marriage, and think long and hard, and often don't hire yourself. At the core, be the same, but ideally you balance each other in some ways, because different strengths. But if the core is the same, it's a powerful combination. And then knowing mistakes. And that's one thing I've tried to bring even here at the EC, is having people talk about failure, because most good entrepreneurs have had failure. And I often say we learn more through the mistakes than often we do through the successes. And
Yeah,
so,
and I'll say this too. With business partnerships and having those complementary skill sets. Jordan and I have some that overlap, but we definitely have some things that we do. I think Mother Teresa said, something to the extent of, "Hey, you know what I don't know. I know what you don't know. Let's do great things together." Right. So with Jordan, he really had this expertise of innovation, manufacturing, and retail. For us, it was digital marketing, it was content creation, right? And then together, it was just sort of this perfect marriage of complementary skill sets.
and so today you all have Ancient Nutrition as the brand that and the product that you work with today. You all still own that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the bone broth.
It is. Yeah. We've got our best-selling product is multi-collagen protein, followed by bone broth protein, soil-based probiotics. And we've got turmeric, ashwagandha, we've got multis. We've got a pretty extensive product line. But yeah, we're found in Whole Foods, Target, Costco starting in January. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. And then where does Jordan live?
Franklin, Tennessee.
He lives here as well?
Yeah, he moved here when we merged. He lived in West Palm Beach, Florida, and then moved here when we merged companies. So he's down in yeah.
Got it.
Franklin.
So you could probably live anywhere, and you choose to live in Nashville. What is it about Nashville? I know you came here because of the people, but you've also chose to stay and build a very successful direct-to-consumer business here.
Yeah, so I think it's a few things. One, and by the way, there was 1 year where my wife and I moved to West Palm Beach to work with Jordan when that company launched. So we moved away for a year, and after we were gone for a little bit, we felt like, oh man, we love Nashville. And that was it was the first year of our marriage. It was really great to get down there and connect and do life together. But we had so much great community here, so that's part of what drew us back. But being in Nashville today, like I have a leadership group of men that I'm a part of, that it's so iron sharpens iron. I mean, that's one of I'll say my single biggest life lesson is you become who you surround yourself with. Now, I'm not the first to say that. Hundreds have said it before me. But all that being said, I'm very conscious about who I put myself around, who my friend group is. So I have a group of around 8 guys that I spend time with. We do we read one book together a month, and then we meet for 3 hours. They're guys I'm going to do dinner with. We do dinner every other week and go out and connect and spur each other on in business and everything else. So I think for me, this community aspect of some of the incredible people I'm connected to here. I think life is all about community. It's about people. It's about building deep and intimate relationships and serving one another. So for me, there are more people in Nashville. I mentioned this earlier. It's important, number one, in a good marriage that you share the same core values. It's important in a business partnership. I think it's also important for building deep and meaningful friendships, that you have people that you share core values with, that you want to do significant things with together, even if that's raising your kids together. Like that's significant, like the kids that my daughter Arwen plays with. So more than anywhere I've ever been, I think people in Nashville share a lot of these core values of servant leadership and being, and changing the world for good. So it's a huge part of it.
No, that's wonderful. All right, and let me go back a little bit. You had mentioned mentors, and also let me just say, if people have any questions, feel free. And I know we have a large virtual audience as well. Just put them into the chat room, and then Jeremy or Shelby, if you will, just let us know. But all right, I'm gonna keep on now. So you mentioned mentors earlier. How important was it for you? Because here we talk about connecting people to resources, and quite frankly, resources are often people. And it's people who have walked before you, people that can help you on your journey, and then, people that have an industry expertise or something. But mentoring is a big part of what we do. But from your perspective, as someone who now sits where you sit, what do you think about mentorship, and how have they played a role, if at all, on your journey?
Well, yeah, mentorship has been a huge part of my journey, and I wouldn't be where I am today and just being very blessed in my relationships and my finances and my business if it wasn't for that. And so yeah, I credit a lot to mentors, everything from mentors in undergrad that I had mentor me in my faith to mentors like I had a man, Ben Lerner, who was a doctor who, mentored me a lot. I've had certain pastors. Jordan Rubin was a mentor. Now he's my, best friend and business partner, but, he was a mentor. He's about 7 years older than me, and I learned so much from him. So all that being said, I think mentorship is essential. When you look at Greek thought today and the way that most of our school systems work and the way that most people learn, it's through memorizing facts. That's the way our system is set up today, based on Greek and Roman culture that now had that affected the Western world. Historically, though, in Eastern culture, if you look at the Middle East or India or Asia, and specifically hitting on the Middle East or Asia, it's all about mentorship. If you read in the Bible, you read about being a disciple or an apprentice. I mean, throughout history, if someone was a farmer, and this is true in the Western world to a degree as well, if you had a dad that was a farmer, like, hey, you learn the basics in school, right? The very basics. You learn how to add, you learned how to write and read, but then you learn to trade, right? So you learn how to be a carpenter or a gardener or a blacksmith or a farmer or whatever it is. And it was this hands-on kinesthetic. You learned by seeing, you learned by modeling. It was modeling via apprenticeship. Today, most people don't learn like that. They learn by memorizing facts. It's not near as effective. And so, as much as I loved going to Kentucky Business School and I learned a good amount there, probably what I use in practice today, maybe that's it's probably, realistically less than 1%. The 99% are things that I've learned by modeling other people that are successful in business and from mentors and things like that. So mentorship for me has been a huge thing. Also, even for myself, it's why that I mentor a lot of others. I have a mastermind group I lead. If anybody wants to check it out, they could just look up Dr. Axe Mastermind Group, where I coach people in business. Because for me, it was such a blessing for me to have mentors pour into me. And then I've done so many coaching groups and mastermind groups over the years where I've been mentored. So for me, it's the single greatest way to learn by far. And the most effective way is through mentorship.
Mm-hmm. And then what about today? Do you still have mentors?
So I would say this currently, I would say that I'm always looking for mentors. I would say that I have, to a degree, right now, I have a less degree of mentorship than I've typically had. I think part of it could be just having more of a sort of a launch in terms of my business platform. But I still am always learning. Again, Jordan Rubin, I learned from him. I learned from some of these guys in my leadership group. I always am trying to go to things and expose myself to people I can learn from. I mean, one of the ways I've been mentored less directly recently, though, is by reading reading and watching every video possible from people like, and from investing. I'm listening and reading to almost everything Ray Dalio and Warren Buffett and Cathie Wood, those sort of people are saying, learning everything I can from an investing standpoint. From a business standpoint, I'm learning everything I can about innovation from Elon Musk and reading their biographies and again, watching them speaking. But again, any opportunity I can, if somebody is further along in business, we took on private equity a few years ago. So via our private equity partners, I've been able to learn a lot. And I'll say too, so having a direct mentor I meet with once a month, I don't, but I do have, for instance, I've got somebody I know who is he was the CEO of Guinness and the CEO then of Seventh Generation and then of Burt's Bees, very, very prominent businessman. Last month was able to go to dinner with, actually, I've been to lunch with him once and then dinner another time and then another phone call. So in a way, I don't know that I have this one mentor that's pouring into me, but I am absolutely making sure that people who have accomplished what I want to accomplish or are a certain place in their life, that I'm still learning from them.
Okay, one moment. And I'm just going to follow up on that because I do think that's important because so much is about the trajectory and the growth. But that's one thing we've done, is even created this group, what I call phase 4 entrepreneurs, and just bring them together as a peer group, because most successful people are continuous learners and always looking to learn, even though it may not be a mentor you check in once a month, but it's other people, whether it's through reading, whether it's through going to seminars, or whether it's through just creating peer groups that people can learn and talk about, oh, I'm looking at investing in this. What do you think? Have you done it? So I think that lifelong learning would be an underlying trait, I would say.
Yeah. And I'll say this too, like I just taught a leadership workshop on building a brand around stories. And so one of the things I talk about in there is telling your story. And so typically you have a guide in a story. So for instance, movies like, you've got Gandalf, who is he's guiding Frodo, and you've got Dumbledore for Harry Potter, and you've got Obi-Wan Kenobi for Luke Skywalker, right? So I don't have a Gandalf, this single person today, but I have many. For instance, last year I went out and hung out with Michael Hyatt, who you're probably familiar with, and he's a dear friend of mine, and him and Gail. And so anyways, got to sit down with him, ask him questions about, he's got 5 daughters, and I had my first not too long ago. And so he gave me all the advice about raising up great daughters. And so, yeah, I'm constantly learning and looking to continually grow.
No, that's wonderful. All right. I apologize. Yes, question. I'll probably need to say it because the mics. All right, we have a question here, and he said, thank you for being here. And then wanted to know if you have any words of wisdom on how you share information with those that you care about, and impart your experiences and wisdom on them without coming off as just telling them what to do.
Yeah. So I would say there are a few ways to do this, depending on the way you're communicating, but there's 3 things I'll mention first. Sharing the why, the vision of what will happen, and the how to do it. So the first off is you want to start with why. Simon Sinek has a great book of Start With Why. Eventually, this is a purpose statement, but if you're trying to influence someone, tell them why. Like for me, almost any time I kick off a major interview, I tell them why I got into the industry. It was because my mom, it was a health crisis. She was suffering. Like, I wanted to help families heal. So I think when you start off with why, if people know your intention from the start of why you're doing what you're doing, I think that's the most important place to start. People don't care what you know till they know how much you care. People know that I care. So I think if you can start that way. Number 2, sharing a vision. And that's saying, like, for instance, with my mom saying, I believe that, we could empty out every medicine cabinet out there and fill it with nutritional supplements and superfoods. And I just imagine a world where rather than driving by cornfields, we're driving by, a rainforest full of superfoods. Like, we can change the planet in that way. So anyways, just being able to share, hey, here's the vision I have for you. Here's what you can achieve if you do this. Here are the things you need to do. You need to cut sugar, right? You need to cut refined carbs. You need to get rid of the hydrogenated oils. Make simple swaps. Rather than doing conventional oil, use coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil. Rather than sugar, use raw local honey, monk fruit, and dates, right? So I'm just saying, but like, that's the sort of thing, I think, starting with why, that mission, that purpose of why you're doing what you're doing, that's really full of character and integrity. I really think that's how you typically want to start. There's also a form of communication that Andy Stanley teaches by, and it's called me, we, God, you, us. And it says, when you're giving a lecture, start with something personal, a personal story of something you've experienced. And then talk about, hey, like for instance, myself, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. Hey, have you ever been in that place in life when you've had somebody, maybe yourself, and you got that diagnosis? Hey, here's what God says about this, or God could be the truth. Here's what the research says. Here's what this famous person says who has experience in this situation, is that I heal all wounds, or food is, or this study shows that this supplement helps heal this. And then it's you. Here's what you need to do with it. Okay. So you need to take this action right now. Then step 5 is, hey, imagine yourself after you start juicing these vegetables, you're full of energy. Your body is healed. You feel younger and you look younger than you've ever in your life. And then when I do an ad, the sort of formula that I follow is, number 1, credibility. Who am I? So, hi, I'm Dr. Josh Axe, founder of Ancient Nutrition. So number 1, my credibility of who I am. Immediately, number 2, here's what you're going to learn in this video. You're going to learn the top 3 steps to reverse diabetes in 90 days. And then I go through, here's what you're going to do. Step 1, 2, 3. And then I typically give a testimonial or example. Hey, by the way, I had a patient, Janine, who had A1C levels at this and this. All she did was follow that formula. And here's what she says. She says, Dr. Axe, I feel 20 years younger. My diabetes is reversed. I feel better, and then it's a call to action. Hey, click the link below to buy, or go ahead and go out and subscribe. But those are some different formulas or ways, I think, in terms of coming across, in terms of getting somebody to take action.
Yes, sir. He asked whether the formula could be emailed, or is it on your site, or is there a way where they could get the formula?
Wow, where would that be? A friend of mine does a lot of marketing, and he sends this sort of stuff out. His name is Dr. Dave Toohill. So he may have it somewhere. The book I had mentioned by Andy Stanley is Communicating for a Change. That's his formula. The others are just things I kind of do and learn, sort of just my method. But maybe go back and listen to the recording here and take notes is probably because I don't think it is anywhere.
No, I love that. Something new here and I did take notes, but then of course I stopped because I was engrossed in listening there, and I quit taking the notes. But yes, this is recorded, so we can always go back and watch it. All right. Any other questions in the audience? Yes, sir.
Eating healthy can be overwhelming, or using like bone broth, juicing, and all that. But for a busy entrepreneur, is there like one top tip that you can take to start making steps in the right direction?
Okay. The question is, eating healthy, whether it's juicing, whether it's bone broth, cutting sugar, can seem overwhelming. And for busy entrepreneurs that want to take the first step, is there one thing that they really should do as they try to take this path to good health?
Yeah, change breakfast. I mean, even if you just change breakfast one meal, you're improving 33% of your diet. I mean, that's like a huge change, right? 1/3 in just one single change. So what I would do is like do a superfood smoothie for breakfast. Like what I do, there's 3 ingredients. I put in 1 cup of coconut milk or almond milk to get some healthy fats. I put in 1 scoop of a collagen protein or a bone broth protein, Ancient Nutrition. And then I do 1 cup of like blueberries, or some sort of berries or fruit. And that's it. It takes like 30 seconds to make. It is so fast. You can do frozen blueberries, coconut milk, and either bone broth protein or collagen protein, bring that on the go. But that alone would be a huge change. The other thing I think that's really beneficial is finding those places. If you are going to eat out for lunch, what are those healthy options? You could go to Whole Foods Market. You could go to True Food Kitchen. You could go to, maybe there's a healthy sandwich shop that has sourdough or some sort of, I don't know. I mean, but just, have those 5 go-to spots that are healthy that you can go to quickly or get delivered. And then, yeah, I mean, of course, it's like, eat more vegetables and more organic meat. If like when I work with patients to reverse autoimmune disease or every major condition, I pretty much have them do meat products like bone broth and wild salmon and beef, those sort of things. And I have them do loads of vegetables. It's like 2/3 or 3/4 of their plate is vegetables. And then I have them do a little organic meat. And that'll reverse almost any health problem you can think of.
Wow. Right.
So getting to 150 employees, like at least, you know, and it might get more. I feel like there's probably some kind of moments along the way that it was really hard to get from 2 to 10 or maybe 15 to 50. And like, I'm just curious, what was maybe one of the more challenging sort of like growth things to jump to and sort of break down how you might have gotten.
Okay. The question deals with your growth of the business and scaling up from, you know, not having much money in your bank account to where you have probably, I don't know how many employees, over 150 employees today.
Yeah.
And were there, when you think on that journey from 0 to 150, was there a specific point that was really challenging or that you had to make a decision what to do? I think I might know your answer, but I would love to hear your answer. And that's obviously the question from one of our audience members.
It's a really good question. And it is an absolute truth. What gets you to one point will not get you to the next. So let me go through, because I just taught on this at a business workshop at that leadership mastermind group I taught at. I have this same. And by the way, people, if you want to go to leaders.com, you can subscribe there. Like I put out some of this content there. But so here's the first thing. If you want to build a business from 0 to 1 million in most cases, you have to start with why. I mean, it's got to be like, you have to have your why, your purpose. You have to paint a big vision for the future. Like I think for yourself, for your team, for your consumers, that why and that telling those, you know, if you've had something change your life, that story, that is critical. The next thing I think that's critical after that is your who is on your team. And so it starts with you and you growing and you developing and you being a visionary and you being a great leader and mission driven, all those things. So it goes from you to who. You need to attract really high level talent, do whatever you can to get the best talent in the world. Number 3, it starts with your product. What is that? You know, you need to create the product that is the best of the best, has the greatest excellence out there today. So when I created a program, health program, I said, this is going to be the best program out there. When I had my clinic, it was the best service out there. When I created my, nutritional supplements, they're the best supplements out there. So I think that mindset too, of you will do whatever it takes to get your product to the best it can be. After that, it's all about the how, right? So you have your what and then how. How are you going to sell this? And getting very good at marketing, especially digital marketing, at least for me in my case, really feeds all of our other channels, everything from Amazon to retail to, all the others. So I would say, and then, so a couple things. One, and we grew really quickly. Like we went from $500,000, which I think we ended up hitting in 2013. And then in 2017, we did 50 million. So we did 500,000, 2 million, 12 million, 50 million. So we grew really fast. But what I realized at 50 million, this is really key, having systems and making decisions based on data is a really, really big deal. Because sometimes when you're, and I'm not saying 1 million to 12 million is small, but I'm saying you can run and gun and you can be a really good marketer and get away with some things, especially the early days of Facebook, when it was like shooting fish in a barrel before, you had so much competition flood the marketplace. But I realized, wow, if we're going to scale this, knowing our numbers and making data-based decisions, not based on my gut instinct, which, hey, I've made some good ones, but I've made some bad ones. When you have gut instincts, but you strengthen it with, hey, I've got really good data here to prove this. That became really, really important in scaling our business from the 50 to 100 million and over mark. That was a really big deal. And as we grew, we had to change teams essentially too. Like our executive leadership team outside of Jordan and I and our current company president, of the 12 people that were on our team 4 years ago, 0 of those people are on there today outside of our main 3. And it was because, hey, we had people that were more in the business startup mode. And it was just very different than when you hit a certain size and scale. So it becomes very, very different at different levels. Yeah. But let me say this too, Judy, just one other thing is that but it's like building a foundation. It always starts with why. And that vision and that purpose and those core values, like it starts there, and then it's the who, and then it's the product, and then it's but like once you get to 100 million and beyond, like with our company, like you have to still have why. It's like a foundation. It's like you're building and building, like all those things become critical.
That's what I was gonna say. I always said the one thing they never talked about or mentioned was you have to change people as the company grows. And if you're fortunate enough to have a fast growing company, the people you hire at 1 million may not be the people that are there at 20 million, which may not be the people that are there at 50 million. So it's tough, but it's necessary. So do we have a couple of questions from the audience? Okay.
I do have one that was just sent to me. How has the natural medicine and nutrition industry changed since you started your business, and what do you see for the future of this industry?
Oh, it's changed a lot. So let me just say this. When I started my practice in 2000, it was like end of 2007. I'm serious, but people thought nutrition didn't really affect your health. I'm serious when I say that. If I was speaking in a lecture and I would say something like, raise your hand if you've ever heard of omega-3 fats, 20%. If I would say, hey, raise your hand if you've ever heard of turmeric, sometimes nobody. 14 years ago. So, I mean, it is radically changed. Now you have so many even MDs coming out and saying, talking about turmeric and ashwagandha and ginger and all, green tea and all these herbal medicines, right? Vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, right? So, I mean, it has radically changed. So I would say it went from being like something that you find in a small mom and pop health food store to now Costco is the largest seller of organic foods in the United States by far. Costco is. If you go into Costco and Target, Walmart, we've been in conversations with Walmart because they're trying to be more like Costco. And so they're looking at doing a whole transformation in their stores of having massive organic sections and massive supplement sections and bringing in higher end supplements, not the ones that are like, people don't know this a lot of times, but most vitamin C powders are made from rocks, from calcium. They get their calcium from limestone, and it's cheap. It's actually not even good for you. It causes calcification of your arteries. But that's what people get when they buy it at a drugstore. Versus us, like we create our vitamin C and we add into our supplements acerola cherry and oranges and all these vitamin C rich superfoods. All that being said, now Walmart and Costco and Target are like, no, we don't want just the lowest end, cheapest thing. We want, higher end, even more premium supplements. And so it is changing radically. I think that, so anyways, access is very high. What I think we're going to see in the future in medicine and nutrition, everything else is personalization. I think we're going to see personalized medicine. Now, it's unfortunate that pharmaceutical companies are going to turn it into, I'll give you an example of this. Sorry, I'm probably going to be a little controversial here, but today I see women who go and get DNA testing and they're saying they have the BRCA gene, which means that they believe that, hey, my mother had this gene and it gives me a greater chance of breast cancer. And so some of them are going and getting double mastectomies. I have never disagreed with anything or close, probably as much. I mean, maybe there's a few things, but as much in my life. And here's why: your genes have to be turned on. Just because you have a gene doesn't mean that you like you're doomed. But that's happening today in conventional medicine. Sorry, this is my own little thing here, my own little sort of rabbit trail. But all that being said, good things will come out of this to where, like right now, you can go and get a test. It's called a micronutrient test, and you can find out every vitamin and mineral you're deficient in. You can see if you're low in omega-3s and vitamin D and zinc and B12. You can see your antioxidant levels, where they are. That's the sort of testing that should be done today. Instead, you've got all these blood panels of looking at your blood serum cholesterol and your thyroid and all the, and those aren't bad tests. But why aren't more medical doctors and people doing these micronutrient tests? Don't you think that'd be helpful to know if you're severely deficient in vitamins in zinc or vitamin D? Do you know what that means for your immune system and fighting certain viruses that I can't name on this thing? But all that being said, so my hope is, and what my belief is, we're going to see a lot more testing and at-home testing. And you know what we'll probably have? Like, I've got a ring on, it's called an Aura ring, and it tracks my sleep. It tells me how much REM sleep I'm getting, how much deep sleep, how much light sleep. It tells me what time to go to bed at night for optimal sleep. Like, it tells my activity levels, calorie I've burned, all in a single ring. But we're also in the future now, there are patches that tell your insulin level. Eventually you'll have a ring on your finger. It'll tell you your insulin levels. It probably could tell you your vitamin and mineral levels for the day and the ideal food and meal you should eat. I mean, it's going to be awesome eventually. I mean, you're going to be able to tell, you'll have a screen pull up or on your iPhone. It's going to be like, wow, I'm low in zinc today, or I'm low in B12. I need to go and eat some, grass-fed beef, and I'm low in, zinc. I need to get some pumpkin seeds. So that's where we're headed, is personalized nutrition. That's for sure.
Jane, we have a few others online. I can go ahead and ask another one.
Okay, we have just a couple more minutes, so maybe one more, Shel.
Okay, let's see. I'll do the one we just got. How have the recent supply chain delays affected your ability to produce and meet current demand? Do you own your own production facility or use a co-packer?
So we do a combo. So we own over 4,000 acres of land. We own 4,000 in Missouri, in the Ozarks, southern Missouri, and we own about 170 in South Tennessee. We grow hemp. We grow some of our own herbs in our manufacturing facility. So we have like a powder fill. So we do our own powder. Encapsulation, we either do that in Pennsylvania or Nevada. But anyway, so we do a combination. It depends on the product we're selling. So we have a co-man, a co-packer, and we also do our own production, but it depends on the supplement. In terms of how these things have affected us, very little. And the reason is we have an all-star team. We just found out we are the second largest collagen seller in terms of sales. The one company that's larger than us, like, we just found out that they're going to have supply chain issues with their collagen. We have a different source than them, and our company president is our COO and is just incredible. So we locked down a lot of. So anyways, we're going to be good there. During the early part of some parts of COVID, we had some issues with some of our herbs. There were some organic herbs we sourced from Asia, which we ran out of, and we had to deal with. And then we found another supplier, and then now we have backup suppliers. So anyways, we figured out solutions. We had a few hiccups, but we actually had planned pretty well ahead by having backup supply in certain cases that allowed us to get through it with minimal damage.
No, that's great. And then before we leave, I just want to circle back to the servant leader. I remember reading a book called Servant Leadership, or The Servant Leader, back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to just, I don't know if it's based on the book or if this is something that you are teaching on, but I am a firm believer and so I would love for you to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah. So for me, and by the way, I'm familiar with the book. I think it's by Robert Greenleaf. Mm-hmm. And I've read part of the book, but this is actually, for me, it's based on the Bible. And for me, everything I do is really founded in what my purpose in life is. And so I believe I'm called to do three things, and I believe everybody is. Love God, love people, make earth a heavenly place. And love God, that essentially means you have a relationship with him, and he's loving you, you're loving him. And so what I think it means, by the way, just not to get these definitions, but to love somebody means you know their desires of their heart, you look to serve them. So like my wife, Chelsea, I know she loves Disney, right? So I'm going to bring her to Disney World. I know that she loves when we do family dinner. So I'm serving her and loving her. So I believe we're called to love God, love people, and make earth a heavenly place. And so for me, our company mission at Ancient Nutrition is to heal people and heal the planet. Mm-hmm. So with that, we create supplements and manufacture supplements to heal the planet. We practice and own over 4,000. We have over 4,000 acres of certified organic land where we practice regenerative agriculture, where we're building back topsoil. We actually have already this year planted over 300,000 trees. And over the next 10 years, we're planting 10 million trees in 10 years. So with that, like, I believe servant leadership is all about serving people, like not looking to see what I can get, looking to say, I'm here to serve my team and love the consumer and make their dreams come true first and foremost, before I really think about even, caring for whatever need I have. So I think servant leadership is all about serving and loving others and thinking and putting their needs first. And so it's essentially, it's the definition of love in the Bible, or agape, is, it's sacrificial love. It's giving up that thing that you want in order to benefit another person. But we know that what it means is it comes back around in terms of you'll live a more fulfilling and meaningful life if you practice servant leadership in that way. And so that's really the mindset of servant leadership. It's also inspiring businesses and people to say, you know what, because this happens a lot more than ever before. We are, and I don't mean to get too technical on this stuff, but today we're in this battle of modern identity and traditional identity. A traditional identity is the Republican Party and Donald Trump. It's saying, hey, the way things used to, have been is the way they should be. And a modern identity is the Democratic Party. And it's saying, no, we need to change things. And it's all about self. So traditional identity, it's about the tribe. It's about the community. So old movies, think about this. Hey, you're sacrificing your own needs. Think about Braveheart or Lord of the Rings. Frodo is sacrificing himself for the world. Braveheart, William Wallace is sacrificing himself for freedom, for his community, for his people. Today, Disney movies are a prime example. It's like your parents are bad and they're trying to hold you back, like in Frozen and Moana. I'm not saying those are bad movies. My daughter, 1.5, she loves them. But it's like you're sacrificing, the community now sacrifices their needs for you as an individual. All that being said, there's this sort of clash going on in the world today. Well, biblical worldview is all about, no, when you make a decision about who you marry, there's not arranged marriages. It's not it's not you picking the person and forgetting what your parents say. You're making a decision together based on what's going to be the best for you and the community together. So all that being said, going back to servant leadership here, I really think servant leadership is all about, like, everybody's arguing about this side and this. I think it's, you kind of put all of those things out and saying, no, there are people in need. What can we do to best serve them and help them? And hey, let's put aside our differences. But even politically today, it's not happening because everybody's about their own side and getting this thing for themselves and getting more power, whatever it is, versus no, like, hey, we're here to serve people. We're here to make earth a heavenly place. We're here to love people. So that's sort of my perspective on servant leadership.
No, well, wonderful. And thank you so much for giving us your time. And our vision at the Nashville Entrepreneur Center is for Nashville to be the best place to start and grow a business. And as I keep saying, we have amazing entrepreneurs in our community, some of whom are here in this room and some who are online. And then obviously Dr. Axe sharing his journey with us. So thank you so much. We're here for anyone in that entrepreneurial life cycle, and appreciate you sharing with our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.